I'm having my late night walk, and I've been thinking about a lot of the issues that are being spoken about in the media, on Twitter, on YouTube, all over. And, you know, I've noticed that what we have is a polarization, an extreme polarization of what, I guess the Americans will call it the left and the right, although I don't subscribe to those types of terminologies. But we have sort of an extreme polarization of ideas to the extent where it is doubtful that people would be able to speak to each other eventually, in the near future, or even at present, because the canvas on which people are painting are essentially like two different canvases. So there is no sort of common denominator, common core, common moral underpinning, or just even a common sort of narrative or stories even that people hold as forming part of their guidance, in a sense, for what should be normative in their lives. And that problem actually started many years ago, when the stories that people were believing in, or people were being influenced by, was being dictated by Hollywood, and that sort of created a norm and has become, in a way, the narrative on which people found sort of a common identity, globally, I think, and in the global West especially. But Hollywood has been usurped in some ways, and Walt Disney has been usurped in some ways, and the Bible, the Hollywood Bible, is no longer the Bible, and we have things like Netflix and Hulu is it called, and different streaming services and different narratives and platforms where we now have exposure to the types of cultural content that is more sort of globalized from various regions. And then we have the degeneracy of the West, of course, which has become too obvious these days. Now, before, of course, the West was always degenerate. For the past 60, 70 years, the West has been degenerate, but it was sort of, one step at a time, The devil misleads you one step at a time, khutwa bi khutwa. And the thing is, first it was sort of, every movie had the hookup culture scene, the guy and the girl meets, for dinner, and then they go home, and the guy's wondering now if he's gonna invite her in or not, and they maybe have a kiss in front of the stair wall, that leads to the door, in a normal New York City apartment type thing. And that has kind of been the standard scene for, I think, a decade, in most American movies in the 90s and so on. But of course things have progressed since, and so the devil misleads you one step at a time. First it undermines the concept of marriage. So people don't get married to have sex anymore. They have sex and then get married. So that was the first thing, or they have sex without any talk about marriage even, I mean, that would still be better. And then eventually they just amounts to hookup culture. 3 months here, 2 months there, 1 month here, 1 night here, 1 night there. And from there, the heterosexual thing gets boring. And then they go into, I don't know, handcuffs and whips. And then it goes into, all kinds of things. It goes into the same-sex and then gender fluidity, non-binary, etc., etc. And it's just, it's a race to the bottom, really, And so because it's become so obvious, the degeneracy has now become so obvious, it has gone to the next level. There's been a rethinking. A lot of people have been rethinking the whole narrative. You know, they're saying, okay, let's isolate where we went wrong from the beginning. And my contribution is that I think we went wrong when we discounted gender norms and gender roles, because we've detached gender from gender roles before we detach gender from biology. So now we don't know what a woman is. Now we talk about a biological man and a biological woman, whereas before there was no need to talk about biological this and that. Okay, but that didn't start now. That started when we said that there are no gender roles. Okay, women can do everything men can do, and men can do everything women can do, which is obviously not true, because the strongest athletes in the world are men. The heaviest lifters in the world are men. You know, the ability to be decisive is more of a male ability than a female. And there's so many differences between men and women. And I'm not saying that men are superior to women. Okay, it's just men and women are different. That's all. You know, they have different strengths and different weaknesses. And that has culminated into normative gender roles in the past, right? Women were homemakers and men were breadwinners. And women washed the dishes and men mowed the lawn. And that was kind of the normative gender roles, and that was okay, you know, or it should have been okay. And suddenly we now have, we changed that first, we undermined that. And okay, it didn't seem like a big deal. I mean, what the hell, what difference does it make if women mow the lawn and men wash the dishes, right? You think, right? But then it escalated and escalated and escalated to a point now in American society, women are more likely to be believed than men. You know, women are more likely to be forgiven for infidelity than men are in the public opinion. And that's really flipping the script. You know, if you look just 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was commonly understood that men would sometimes stray from their marriages, and was almost pardonable and acceptable, but it was never accepted for women to sleep around. Okay, it resulted in slut shaming. Okay, you never slut shame a man. A man is never slut shamed, right? So things are upside down. The script have been flipped, and the result will not be good. It has not been good. Okay, and it will not be good in the future. And the best thing us traditional people can do is to stick to our normative gender roles and our value system of marriage and family and living decent moral lives, you know, and obeying our respective scriptures. And that's what I leave you with.